Okay. Hi, Arman. Thanks for joining me today. Good to
Hi,
see
Victor.
you.
Good to be
How
here.
are you?
Fantastic, thanks.
Good, good. First off, I suppose we should put out the usual disclaimer. I'm not giving any legal advice, and I'm assuming you're not giving any financial
I'm
advice.
not giving any financial advice unless you're a onboarded client. Then
There
it's
we go.
different.
Quite. All right. So yeah, we met at I think it was a gallery event, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think in Hackney Downs or somewhere like that.
yeah. Back in summer 22.
Yes, yes. So first off, we're both involved in kind of the arts community within kind of the NFT scene. And then shortly after, I learned that you are also a chartered accountant and you do a bit of crypto advice as well.
That's correct.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about yourself. Obviously, you are Aman. It's great to see you on here. So tell people what it is you do in terms of your accountancy work.
Well, I work with an accountancy firm, and with the firm, we do more traditional accounting, and we have clients based in construction, in IT, and etc. But our firm doesn't really deal with crypto, and I found that we were slowly getting more and more clients or people asking about crypto because it was something they were doing or something they were interested in because somebody had talked to them about it, and it got to a point whereby even though I was interested in it, the rest of the company weren't because they didn't have any knowledge of the subject. And you get to a point where you go, we're turning away a lot of clients or potential clients. So I set my own kind of thing up. I'd been doing it already, and it kind of stemmed from there. Basically a necessity, and you try and feel that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Well, I'd say actually, in a way, I kind of am surprised because having been in the scene I mean, I got in about late 21, and one of the ongoing narratives within crypto is that it's not regulated. There is no regulation, there's no rules, so we can do what we like, which I've always thought is insane. You know, there is regulation out there. So, yeah, I mean, how come you are getting these clients? How come there are people coming to you and they're not just saying, well, you know, this clearly isn't regulated. I don't need to pay any taxes. I don't need to do anything. You know, are you helping them out? Are you onboarding them? Or are these people that already have some idea that actually this is something that we need sorted out by a professional?
A bit of all the above, actually. To be honest, up until I would say, well, HMRC had kind of guidance around 2014, basically saying if you've sold crypto, there's capital gains tax on it. And a lot of people just went, okay, fairly straightforward. I'm just going to hodl. I'm not going to sell anything. I'm just going to buy and then sell. And if I do sell, then I'll get in contact with an accountant. But there was not that much guidance up until then. It was it was kind of seen as from HMRC side, yeah, that will take care of that. That's not going to be too much of an issue going forward. But then fast forward a few years and you see the explosion of Bitcoin. And late 2018, I believe it was, when HMRC went, okay, we're going to put out something a bit more comprehensive, the crypto asset manual. And from there, people kind of went, okay, there's a lot more to this. It's not just buying crypto and then selling it. There's
Yeah.
all these different areas. I mean, mining, staking,
Yeah.
or NFTs. There's so many different branches to it now that HMRC kind of needed to do something to keep up. But I will say this, in terms of regulation, HMRC is probably we're probably one of the most comprehensive and forward thinking compared to other tax legislations around the world. Other countries say they were kind of like how HMRC were at the beginning. Yeah, I'm not that fast with it, but HMRC have really done quite a lot. The second part of what you were saying, I think people kind of heard from others saying, hey, I think I need to take care of this because HMRC sent out letters to the big exchanges, Coinbase and everyone saying, hey, if you've got someone on your books who's, I think it was about, if they've made over 3K or traded 3K, £3,000, then we want to know who they are. And so that kind of was a bit of a wake up call to, oh, they're never going to find me. I'll just trade whatever I want. Who's going to find out? But then I guess that was the kind of catalyst as well for people to go, okay, I do need to do something. And plus, when you just do a simple Google search, you'll see so many different crypto accountancy software out there. Recap, Coinly, Crypto Tax Calculator, etc. There's more. And so people went, okay, I think I do need to do something with this.
Actually, that's one point that I wanted to bring up. I think it was at one of the NFT UK events where this did actually come up in conversation, which was, okay, so, I mean, we have these apps now like Coinly. I just put everything in and it sorts it out all for me. So why would I want a crypto accountant?
That's a good point. The software is great. And I will say the software is actually really good. Because if you've got a handful of transactions, it's not that big a deal. If you've got hundreds, thousands, that's a lot of work. I mean, to do that manually, if somebody was to give you a CSV file, that's a lot of work to go through. And there's a lot of going on CoinMarketCap and checking what the price was at this day. You're not going to do that. So the software is great. But the software doesn't do everything. It does a good chunk, if I'm honest. But there's always going to be transactions between wallets and exchanges and things that it just won't pick up. I've done this for quite a few clients, and there's always going to be transactions where it just doesn't know what something is quite often.
Yeah.
Quite often when something could be an airdrop or just a token, or if you go into more in-depth things like liquidity pools, the software won't know what that is because it's only picking up what you tell it to. Mm-hmm. And if you're not telling it the right things, it's not going to give you the right answer in terms of what your gain and where your tax is going to be. So there is still, I mean, the software is really good, but you still need someone to put it all together and make sense of it and still do your tax return for you. So there is still that element.
So how would you suggest then going forward, like if, let's say, for example, me, I start trading at a level which is sort of, let's say, verging on sort of the capital gains tax threshold. So maybe I need to start talking to somebody to see how I can make sense of this, or how I can sort of maximize profits, etc., make sure I'm not paying too little tax, make sure I'm not paying too much. Do I start off with an app and then come to you if there are bits that I don't understand, or is it better to come to you first to sort of take me through the process?
Well, it kind of depends on what stage you are. If you're an early investor and you haven't done too much, then you could just jump straight into the app to kind of see where you are, because you kind of need to have an idea of what kind of position you're going to be in. If I talk to someone, I'd ask them roughly, how many transactions do you think you've done in the year? Well, sometimes they'll know, sometimes they won't. There's quite a large margin between someone who's an investor and someone who's a trader. Someone who's a casual investor, they may say, oh, I've done 100 transactions or 1,000. But they may not have an idea of what their gain is at that point. So you do need to kind of crystallize to say, all right, this is what your gain is. If you're kind of doing that as you go along, it's better for you, because then you've got more autonomy, control over, all right, I'm kind of getting to that limit of, I might be pushing over the 12.5K limit, 12,300 for CGT. So I may pull back, or I may start looking into other avenues if you want to avoid CGT altogether. But if you're someone who's not that worried about that part, you want to do what you do, and you're not that worried about paying a little bit of tax, then you kind of need to see where you are in terms of transactions and how much you've done. That's the biggest, I would say, barometer of finding out what your current position is.
Okay.
Yeah.
If
you join me a little bit late after you've done everything, then you may have a huge amount of gains, and then now you're playing kind of catch up.
I think we're probably going to see a lot of that coming through. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I appreciate you can't tell me a lot, but how has it been? I mean, you say you've already had some clients come to you. Are these more the proactive types that are they're on it? They kind of know that, okay, we need to be sorting something out quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit of both, actually. Sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, I do this many transactions a month. This is what my rough gain is. And I just need some advice on what to do next. And sometimes I've come across people who go, I've already got Coinly recap loaded up. I've got all my transactions in there. I need some help with organizing some of the transactions. Now, that part is the part where I think people trip up. They try to do what they can, which makes sense. Yeah. As a human being, you always try to do what you can. But there's parts where they won't know what to do. And it's better to get advice from someone than just kind of blindly put anything down. And there's different levels, because an accountant may charge you a certain amount. Coinly have their own service for that. And that's not cheap. You're actually, I'll be honest with you, it's probably double than get an accountant to do all of the work for you, rather than getting them to do some of theirs.
Wow.
And the other side is people who have no idea. They'll go, I did some crypto. Somebody told me I've got to get my taxes done. And then I look at it and I go, you did like 3 transactions in the year. You don't worry about it. You don't need to do much. But then there's others who've done a lot, like a lot of transactions. Not in trader level, but like, let's say 5,000, 6,000 transactions in a year. And they go, do I need, some assistance with this? And I go, yeah, you do, because you've done quite a few transactions, and they were pretty big ones. Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with small amounts, it may not amount to much. But if you're dealing with, good amounts of money, whereby you've bought, let's say, 5,000 of pounds worth of crypto in Ethereum, and then bought another, that will quickly add up, and you will use your allowances up pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And there was something I was thinking of a little while ago. I don't know if you remember. I think it was late last year we had the Ethereum merge.
Oh yes.
And at the same time, a bit of a tangent, but it just fascinated me. There was this small group of people because of course the merge was about making sure that Ethereum went to the proof of stake consensus mechanism, which loads of us are really happy with. It's a lot more environmentally friendly, and hopefully just generally better going forward in many, many ways. But there are people who, rightfully so, were quite annoyed that it was moving away from the proof of work consensus mechanism. And so there was a plan to make this hard fork. Something, for anybody that isn't aware, a hard fork is essentially a split in the road on the blockchain. So you end up creating 2 paths from a set moment in time. And so there were a group of people that wanted to continue doing proof of work. So we ended up getting this split. And essentially what happened, as long as people picked up on it, was that everybody that had Ether at that moment in their wallet suddenly doubled their money. Now, there's obviously more to it than that. The proof of work ETH token has just completely fallen off the face of the planet. In terms of price, so nobody cares anymore. But how does that work in terms of, if we're thinking like, I've got this much money, it's not enough that I need to be, aware of taxes and all that sort of stuff now, but suddenly everything I've got has just doubled. Where are we at when that sort of thing happens?
Well, in eyes of HMRC, my assumption would be they would just say, well, you made an exceptional gain. It's to the point whereby if you got just to give it an analogy, you had like a Pokemon card or something like memorabilia-wise, it wasn't worth that much, and then something happens, or it's like an art piece of artwork, and it suddenly becomes massively valuable. Then you can't say, well, I didn't know it was going to become valuable. Well, you kind of were hoping to, I guess. That's why you got into it. There's the speculation. You kind of hope that it does increase in value, and if it does, then you're better off for it, even though you'll have to suffer the consequences of tax. There's that thing of life, you can't get away from it. So it's a good position to be in, whereby your crypto's gained in value, but from the other side, there is going to be the element of there's maybe a good chance I'll have to pay some tax on this. But that depends on the individual's circumstance.
I suppose so. A very tricky position.
gas fees to come down for that as well. I thought, yeah.
One day, God, gas has not been much fun recently, that's for sure. It's certainly an interesting position to be in, because where coins can just be airdropped at any moment from nowhere, because of course people's public addresses are public. So yeah, very interesting time to be seeing this sort of thing. But I think you mentioned something that was akin to NFTs earlier, and certainly something that I've been following for a long time. As CT20 or half of CT20, I've been dropping NFTs for our brand, and it's a part of the blockchain sphere that I absolutely adore. It's got a fantastic community, and the technology is just wonderful. What's your involvement in NFTs? Have you bought any? Have you sold any? Or is that really not your thing at all? You more into the coins?
I'll be honest, I'm more into the coins. I do like NFTs, but I like when there's something attached to it. I also work in the music industry, so I like that you could buy something physical and it comes with an NFT. I think Muse did this, and there's a whole bunch of people that have done this as well.
Yes, I think Muse was dropped with Serenade.
Yeah. So those things I like, because it's kind of easing that kind of way into NFTs for a lot of people, whereby they buy something physical and then they go, actually, there is an element whereby it is tangible. I've got the physical part, and now I've got the kind of intangible part in the digital realm, and I'm good with both. But I think it also is it shows to be a junction between age groups, I think, because I'm of the age whereby I'll showcase, I don't have vinyl, I'm not that much of a hipster, unfortunately, but I do have a lot of CDs and DVDs, and I've got some old school CDs going back to the 90s. Whereas that would be kind of something to show. Whereas I guess someone who's a bit younger would show what they have via their phone. So they would show, I've got this, I've got these NFTs. Whereas I would say, I've got these things, which are a bit more physical. I do like NFTs, but for me, it's got to have some sort of useful, practical element to it. So I like the ticketing element of it, or the smart contracts part, where you go, this is a bit more tangible. This has some use. There's a lot of people dropping NFTs and they go nowhere. We all know people that have dropped a lot of NFTs and not that much is being purchased. But it's because it doesn't have much of a mechanism behind it. There's no real, well, if I buy this, is it going to be worth anything? If I buy it now, is it going to be worth anything in a year's time, 5 years' time? That's speculation. Whereas sometimes something comes out, and a piece of art, we could talk like the apes, and you go, okay, this has value because we've attributed value to it.
Yes.
Even if you don't like the artwork. I mean, there's plenty of art dealers out there that buy art, they don't care for it, they don't like the artist, they don't like any part of it, but they know this is going to be worth something. So they'll get into it. But for me, I have purchased NFTs. I'm more on the coin side in terms of what's the motive behind it, and what problem does it solve? What's it geared towards? Then it has a bit more relevance. So that holds a bit more weight for me.
Well, how about we condense it slightly? Because actually, one of the things that fascinates me about you is that you are one of these that sort of straddles the two worlds, because, like you just mentioned, you are also in the music industry. I think, is it Aztec Records that you work with? So from memory, they're like a synthwave based record label.
So independent record label.
Yes. So you must sort of understand, obviously, the importance of emotional attachment and emotional investment. And certainly one of the things that I've seen with particular artists in the music NFT scene is this lack of desire from collectors to trade. They just want to buy. I mean, for example, a good friend, Sound of Fractures, as far as I'm aware, barely any of his stuff ends up on the secondary market because the people that buy, they're hodlers.
Godless.
Yeah. So how do you see that going for? I mean, could you, for example, I mean, with a synthwave record label, see your artists moving towards NFTs without that kind of narrative of you can make money from this because it's going to moon?
To be honest, there is money to be made there, but I think it depends on the artist's fans. You've really got to go back to the fans on the music side, because if your fan base is of an older generation who aren't into NFTs or the crypto world, Web3, they're not going to buy your NFTs because it's not in their lexicon. They're more interested in buying tickets to your show or buying memorabilia or buying the record. They're not that interested in it. So it depends on the artist. Now, for us specifically, I'll say we kind of go the opposite way because synthwave is very much based in 80s kind of style music. And thing that we've seen, vinyl and cassettes, up and up and up.
Cassettes, so, honestly, I can't believe that.
Even cassettes. I don't even have a cassette player anymore, I think, in the house. So, but it's kind of similar to NFTs. People buying the cassettes, they probably don't even have a cassette player. So they're holding on to it because it's something that they like. It's tangible, it's physical in your hand, and it sets you apart as well. People always want to be set apart. So they've got a cassette. Not many artists out there are putting out those. So it's something that you go, I've got this.
Yeah.
Not many other people are going to have this. So, yeah, people want that kind of, is it going to be something I like? If NFTs aren't in your fan base, it's not that. I would say I wouldn't pump too much time and effort into it unless your fan base wants it. And honestly, the best way to find out is to ask them, is to do Instagram lives, is to go on TikTok or do polls and say, hey, I was thinking about doing this, and then gauging the reaction of your fan base and seeing, okay, is this something I kind of want to do? And that's honestly if you don't ask, you don't get. So
very good point.
Kind of the way to do it.
It makes me think of because CT20, again, the brand that I'm pushing, is it was kind of born into accidentally, purely. It was fantastic, but born into the music NFT scene. I think we released a couple of things on Spotify and Bandcamp and whatever, and then it's suddenly like, oh, okay, where's this thing come from? And I put everything I had into it, and it's interesting what you say about asking your fan base, where of course CT20 didn't have a fan base before it started, and so the fan base was actually, as small as it may be at this point, was built through music NFTs. And that's been fascinating because, of course, yes, people do want music NFTs because that's the sorts of people that we've been targeting from the very, very beginning. So, yeah, I think demographic is absolutely very important. But do you feel like in the future then that there will be more of a pull for this because it's just the thing that we do, or do you think music NFTs are dead?
No, I think it definitely will be something more prevalent going forward. Generationally, you'll get age range of purchase of music tends to be from 10 years old plus with their pocket money, and they're going to grow up with NFTs more so than somebody who's, let's say, a new artist now. They may, like you said, bake that in, start off with that. They've got their stuff on Spotify, they've got their stuff on YouTube and every other platform, they've got the social media. So NFT is like a natural thing for them to do. It's another avenue. Whereas for someone who's, I don't know if he does NFTs, I'm just thinking someone say Bruce Springsteen, his fan base, it's a wide fan base, but we know it's going to be the older generation that listen to more. And they're not going to be that into NFTs, as far as I'm aware, that they'll go, oh, Bruce has got another NFT out. I might buy it. Whereas it's not going to be something that they've been doing for a long time. He's had a lot of albums. They'll be used to buying the album on whichever format. Whereas buying an NFT is going to be something new. For someone who's got 10, 20 albums out, I don't know how many Bruce has out. He's got a lot. Studio albums and live albums. But somebody who's new, who's only had one or two albums out, they'll go, okay, I think I'll put this in as a starting point as well, because it makes sense to kind of get that platform going too.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Well, I have to say that's been pretty good, quite in depth. Thank you very much for your time, Aman. So what's going on for you going ahead? Building more of a client base. How do people get in touch with you? In fact, if they want their crypto advice,
I am the director of the company, Crypto UK Tax. So you can just Google the website, and we have an Instagram by the same name. I probably will get onto TikTok and maybe do some videos and stuff on there, see what kind of reaction there is, see how much of a kind of requirement there is, I guess, as well, for more knowledge of this. And to be honest, from what I found, there is, because crypto really is everywhere, and you get pockets on Discord, you got some on Telegram, and TikTok and Insta, and sometimes people are on one platform, but they may not be necessarily on another. So it's kind of good to hit across all. But yeah, to grow the company, I guess, with more and more clients, and I guess take on more complex cases as well, because there are, with this, as you all know as well, the legal side of it. And whenever you've got something where you may argue a point that HMRC disagrees with, you'll need some sort of legal representation behind you to say, well, this is what I believe, and this is what I think the rules behind this kind of are interpreted to be. So that's going to become more and more prevalent. And I think, the firm will grow with that as well.
Yeah, agreed. I think we all need to start looking into this, because as far as I'm concerned, ET is happening whether people like it or not.
Absolutely.
So we need to get people trained up in the regulation. So, yeah. Well, thanks very much, Aman, for talking to me today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.